Across the next 5 minutes, we're going to take a look at what reflective judgment is and why it matters. Reflective judgment describes a way of thinking that emerges when you think carefully about what makes information true-ish, more or less true. It involves several familiar overlapping skills. First is critical thinking or informal reasoning. This involves the evaluation of information. It involves the assembling of arguments. It involves making inferences and drawing conclusions. Information literacy is also a familiar construct, and this involves search processes and how it is we come to evaluate information as credible. Reflective judgment overlaps with both critical thinking and information literacy. Looking at this a little more closely, reflective judgment recognizes the limits or uncertainty of knowledge, and yet, in spite of its uncertainty, it helps the person to construct a reasonable knowledge claim or to solve a problem with a defensible solution, all the while holding this view tentatively and recognizing that with better tools or a different perspective, that the truth of a situation may change. King and Kitchener interviewed people about why they thought they knew something and why they thought things were true. They found that people tended to make one of three attributions about the information. They called these three attributions that people would make the reflective judgment model. In the first stage, people believed that the information they had was true. If they read it, it must be true. If they saw it, then it must be true. In the second stage, knowers recognized that truth can be relative, that perspective could matter. But as a weakness, these knowers tended to believe that truth was just a matter of opinion, and in putting together their arguments, they tended to cherry-pick information that suited their ends. Someone exercising reflective judgment recognizes that truth depends upon the quality of evidence and the reasoning involved. The three technical terms that King and Kitchener use to describe their stages are the pre-reflective stage, the quasi-reflective stage, and finally, reflective judgment. This is a developmental model, and the research supports that as people progress through what's now called emerging adulthood, their epistemological sophistication improves, and they progress through these stages, especially when aided by higher education. So, as a teacher, how do we get our students from this pre-reflective absolutism to reflective judgment? Well, there are a number of important factors. First, the aging process helps. And as mentioned, higher education also furthers this. As teachers, it's important to respect where people are developmentally. We're also encouraged to use our discipline's ill-structured problems in teaching, to challenge and support students cognitively and emotionally in the classroom. And finally, it's important that we foster a classroom environment, even a campus environment, that supports thoughtful analysis and discourse. So, why does reflective judgment matter? Well, reflective judgment is to information as taste buds are to identifying good and non-toxic foods. While we may not ever develop this perfect epistemological screen for truth, there probably doesn't exist one, as our epistemological sophistication develops, we at least progress toward a more sophisticated and discerning palate. Of course, think for just a moment about what happens if we eat bad food. Yeah. But are there not also consequences if we think with bad information? We make decisions with information. We solve problems using information. And what if our information is bad? And what if we didn't even know it? So, reflective judgment is a very important construct. It's vital that we and our students know why we believe what we believe.